as promised in my curry paste video, today we're going to do a deep dive into Massaman curry, a wonderful, wonderful comfort food that has a lot of Middle Eastern influences, particularly the use of dry spices. And there are different variations of this recipe, of course. Today I'm going to show you my interpretation. The choice of meat is lamb, and with slow cooking and braising dishes, I always prefer the shoulder to the leg. And cooking the Muslim time variation of this dish, we're going to start by browning our meat. This is the only major curry that we get to brown the meat as opposed to just poaching it, because the spices we're introducing can really take on the meatiness from the Maillard reaction. So, hot pan, and for the browning, we're just going to use a high smoke point oil, in this case, vegetable oil. We'll skim off almost all the fat from the browning stage, so be generous with the oil. Lamb goes in. For any braising dishes that requires browning, I always prefer to keep my meat chunky so we can afford to cook them a bit more to give them more color. We season with salt. You want to form one even layer with the lamb to not crowd the pan. If you have more than that, do it in batches, otherwise you'll end up boiling the meat. Now, once the meat is well browned on all sides, and don't let my video editing fool you, this takes at least 10 minutes. So take your time to develop the flavors. We add just enough water to cover everything. I'm starting the braising process separately and early for two reasons. One, we want to have full control over how much fat goes into the curry. How many times have you ordered curry delivery and you see a centimeter of oil floating to the top of the container? Some people actually like that and they go for that, but in our case, it's good to have control. And number two, I want to develop a very flavorsome liquid which we're going to use to cook the curry later. And on that note, we're going to throw in the bones, only if you have them, of course. Now, lid on, and we leave it to braise at medium heat while we make our curry paste. Now, of course, you could use store-bought curry paste, you could use my base recipe, but today we go the extra mile, tailoring the flavors to Massaman curry and toasting most of these ingredients along the way to really bring out their flavors. So, just like our other curry pastes, first we deal with the dry spices. Today we have some coriander seeds, some turmeric, some white peppercorn, some cloves, some cardamom pods, nutmeg, and because I couldn't find whole mace, we have mace powder, which we'll set aside. Now we break the chunky bits apart and we toast them in a dry non-stick pan at low heat. Once this is fragrant, meaning your whole house smells like the spices, we switch off the stove and we add whatever spices you're using in powder form in the very last minute, so that they also get toasted, but they won't burn this way. Now, we add everything to our spice grinder and we blitz. Perfect. Now, everything goes into pesto mortar. Next up, we deal with the Thai spur chilies. Personally, I always like to remove most of the seeds because the seeds add very little flavor. Even if I want it spicier, I would just add more dried chili flesh to give me also more flavors. Oh wow, I can smell this one. Whew. And these also go into the non-stick to toast briefly. Perfect, that's plenty. Now, into the spice grinder they go. We set them aside separately and we add them at the very end, so we have way more control over how spicy we want the curry paste to be. Otherwise, you might risk spending 20-30 minutes pounding away only to end up with a curry paste that you physically cannot eat. So now the last ingredient that requires toasting, we have the lemongrass. And just like our previous recipes, we remove the tough outer leaves. One thing that is different from the base we showed you previously is that galangal is not added for Massaman curries. Relatively thin to make life easier later for us. These should be relatively easy to slice with a sharp knife. If you're struggling, remove more outer leaves. Once we get to the green part, we stop and straight into the non-stick to toast. We want to get to the point that they're slightly charred on the outside, so we're introducing a hint of smokiness to the curry paste. Perfect. Now, stove off, we're ready to pound. By the way, I don't know why I added the spices here. To make life easier, we always add the dry spices last. Now, first up, lemongrass. Next up, we have our coriander roots. and they add so much complexity. And not to bring too much moisture to the paste, we're really just using the root end. Perfect. Both the lemongrass and the coriander root are quite tough, so you really need to start with the up and down motion before you get to grind it. Now, one optional, not authentic ingredient, the kaffir lime zest. I really like what it brings to the table, but for most traditional recipes, they skip the lime, so you be your own judge. This is my favorite smell in the world. If I could have a perfume smelling like this, I would wear it. This is a gift from the owner of the Thai shop in our neighborhood, so thank you. Perfect. Next up, a bit of shallot. This will add sweetness to the curry once it's cooked down and its water content evaporated. Perfect. And a bit of garlic. As usual, I'm going to post the ratios I recommend in description. Do not waste your time. Of course, we try to make life easier for ourselves when we can, so we use a garlic crusher. I mean, if you find this therapeutic and you're doing it on a Sunday, fun project, by all means, pound away. Perfect. Now we go again. Now, once you have a paste consistency, you add the dry spices. Not what I did before, so. And the dry spices will really absorb a lot of the moisture from the aromatics, making this one of the drier curry pastes. If you're making this for the first time, because we have the luxury of not having the spices, taste along the way so you know what each ingredient brings to the table. Now, we add the chilies. How much chili to add is really a matter of personal taste. Just because someone with an incredible spice tolerance told you to add 10, it doesn't mean you have to. The only way to know is to taste. Not by tasting the chili powder, of course, but by adding a tiny bit of paste to boiling water so you could gauge the spice level of the finished product. So we start with this much. So we literally take a tiny teaspoon. And for most curries, I've worked out the liquid to curry paste ratio is ballpark 10 to 1. So we literally add 10 times the teaspoon. Of course, this is not what the final product's gonna taste like, but the spice level will be pretty accurate. So for me, that's perfect. Don't be a hero when it comes to spices. So, if you're making a vegetarian massaman curry paste, this is where you stop. But today, because we're making massaman lamb, we add the umami bomb, Thai shrimp paste. You want the shrimp paste to be able to bring the umami, but you don't want to taste the shrimp paste in the final product. So don't be too generous. And there we go. We have massaman curry paste. Now, let's make a curry. So, with any coconut-based curries, we start by cooking down the coconut cream or thick coconut milk. Stove on, medium heat, and we add the coconut cream. First, the heat will evaporate the water content from the coconut cream. Then, the fat from the coconut milk would start to cook the solids, bringing out the wonderful flavors. A lot of recipes, they suggest using coconut oil instead, but that never achieves the same thing. Similar to the difference between burnt butter and clarified butter. Without the solids being cooked, you'll never get those flavors. So, similar to making a dark roux, I like to use a whisk for this. And you adjust the heat to prevent this from burning. So you do it at a pace that you're comfortable. The success and failure of the curry depends on this step. So take your time, be patient, mother it. With a whisk, you're not gonna see the oil separating, but you can feel the consistency and you can see the steam coming out, telling us there's still liquid to be evaporated. Once the steam has subsided and you can feel a very thick consistency, that's when we introduce the curry paste and we cook to emulsify all the beautiful essential oil from the dry spices with the oil from the coconut milk, forming a wonderful base for our curry. And you really need to cook out the curry paste because remember, we have the shallots, we have the garlic, and we want to evaporate the water content from them to give us complexity, give us sweetness. Oh, the smell is wonderful. Now, you can see the steam has subsided and the oil has separated and it's now frying the curry paste, evaporating its water content, concentrating its flavors. Now we can switch to something that's more shirt-friendly. This is what you want to achieve. You want the oil to be visible. If you can't see the oil, continue stirring. Now, we deglass the pan with tamarind, and this would give us a lot of wonderful sweet and sour flavor, and the acidity would balance the richness of the curry. We work it in. Now, 2 optional ingredients that I personally like to skip. One is for a sweeter version of the curry. You could add palm sugar to your taste. The other is fish sauce. I promised the lady at the Thai shop to skip the fish sauce because according to her, the secret to a good massaman is you skip the fish sauce, but it's up to you. So now, this is ready for the lamb to come back in. So, grab this beauty and we first transfer the lamb shoulder, which by now has been cooking for a bit more than an hour. Now, we skim off all the excess fat from the lamb. Because coconut milk is already very high in fat content and it's a very, very rich dish that I really don't think we need the layer of animal fat. But again, skim all of it off and add back as much as you like. It's a personal preference, but it's good to have control. If you're using store-bought curry powder, I would still recommend you let the lamb cook alone for an hour for the fat to really render out. So, a full bowl, if we skip this step, this would go into your stomach. Now, we add just enough liquid to cover everything. And we bring this back to a boil. Season with a generous amount of salt. And we let this simmer. For me, if you want fail-proof lamb shoulder, simmer the meat in total for 3 hours. So if you had an hour here, 2 hours here, and in the last hour of cooking, we'll add some potatoes. I'll see you guys then. All right, after a total of 3 hours, we have this wonderful thing that is comfort food at its best. And even after skimming off a bowl of fat, we still have this thin layer of flavoursome oil floating on top. Potatoes are cooked through. Last, we taste to adjust the seasoning. Perfection. Let's plate one, shall we? Beautiful. Oh. And that's it. Tender lamb shoulder, flavoursome and complex sauce. This is Lamb Massaman Curry. I really, really hope you enjoy.